Hey everyone, today I'm going to be talking about the attention crisis, just to bring some awareness to it because it's really a crisis and a lot of people don't realize it. Let me look it up since my script is on the screen.
I also want to preface that if you can't focus for 5 minutes, then it really says a lot about the crisis that we're in.
Sometimes when I'm with a group of people, I feel like people just aren't present. Some people these days are in the same room together, but they're all on their phones. And it really disturbs me that people aren't interacting in person with the other people in the room, rather they're all on their phones. It comes down to people being unable to stay present and unable to focus on other people and have conversations with them for a sustained period of time. In this video, I'll be talking about how your attention is being robbed from you by external factors and how you should best approach getting your ability to focus back. Did you know that on average, students switch tasks once every 65 seconds? Every minute you switch tasks. And every time you switch tasks, your brain can't fully regain focus for another 20 minutes. It also takes time to reconfigure your brain on a subject after being distracted. Therefore, if your weekly screen time is 3 hours, then you're actually being distracted for a lot longer than that. This just shows the effect of being distracted. So please turn your phone on Do Not Disturb mode right now. Every time a notification comes up, your brain switches tasks briefly, causing distraction and a loss of sustained focus. There was a study I saw showing two groups who looked at their IQ. One group was getting their notifications throughout and the other group wasn't. The group that had these distractions, their IQ dropped by 10 points, which is the same effect as being drunk or stoned. I realized I was instilling ADHD in my own life when I'd be doing tasks while listening to music or listening to a podcast. So I wasn't actually entirely focused on any one thing at a time. And soon enough, I felt that I just couldn't sit down and work for a long amount of time. That just made me think of all the different ways that I was hurting my ability to focus. And it had me thinking that if this keeps going, we will be unable to get anything done. First of all, this isn't your fault. You're being conditioned by society. It's a much bigger problem than your individual faults. That is why it's almost impossible to escape this attention crisis. One of the main things is social media. Social media is the biggest way that society is conditioning people, in my opinion. In the 1960s, a psychologist named B.F. Skinner became popular for controlling animals. He did it with pigeons, and they'd be in a cage, and when they did a random movement or act, he would feed them, and they would continue to do this act to be rewarded by being fed. What does this remind you of? Getting likes and views, continuing to feed into social media, and you are hungry for those likes and views. I promise you. I've deleted Instagram, deleted all social medias, but even with YouTube now, I'm constantly checking the analytics, seeing my views, and I know that's not good for me, but I can't help it. The people who created these social medias did this on purpose. They need engagement. They need you to constantly be going back and engaging with their apps for them to make profit. And it really shouldn't be about what other people online think. You post what you should be proud of, not for likes or views. So for me to be concerned about how my YouTube videos are doing really shouldn't be a concern at all. And I know it might seem like I'm going on a tangent, but the more you're affected by this, the more time you're spending on social media and the less productive and less able to focus you are. Social media also knows what keeps us engaged very well. TikTok epitomizes this. These apps find out what interests you and they put it in your feed to hook you even more. Have you ever thought that the apps may be eavesdropping on our conversations? Let's say if you were talking about a basketball game coming up and then you see something about this basketball game on your phone. It's actually not eavesdropping, but it's that the apps can predict your next move so well that they know what's coming up, that they can predict what's going to interest you. So what you were just talking about, they knew that it was coming up. Something in these apps that is awful for your attention is unlimited swiping. Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and numerous other apps use this, which makes you swipe from something new to another thing new, giving you more and more dopamine, and never actually paying attention to anything for a sustained period of time. And the problem is these companies won't stop doing this. They need to capture you in their system to make money. So you need to understand that you have a problem. And if you can't just delete the app itself, what does that say about yourself? But if you're going to keep these apps on your phone to interact with others, it's important to be aware. The first step is awareness. So when you're scrolling, it's easy to become unaware. You could scroll for an hour and it's an hour of your time just wasted. Whereas if I'm watching a movie, after 15 minutes, I'm like, what the fuck am I doing? Poor use of social media can also affect your sleep, which is very important for attention. You must prioritize your sleep over anything else, or at least anything pointless that you're doing at night. In the past century, average sleep in the US has dropped by an hour per night. I know better than anyone else that schedules can be busy. I have to wake up at 4 a.m. to go to work every day, and that doesn't account sleep efficiency, which is how long you're in bed. So for me to sleep 8 hours, I'd have to be in bed by 8, but I'd actually have to be in bed for longer than 8 hours since I'm not going to be entirely efficient with my sleep. And once I get into bed, I'm just going to be 8 hours sleep straight and then get up at 4. So you really need to become a master at your sleep. Wind down before you go to sleep for a couple hours, meaning don't be on your phone, which has blue light and it tells your body to stay awake since there's a light, and humans used to go by the sun and the moon. And actually, when it becomes nighttime, humans evolved to then look for a shelter. So when you turn the lights completely off, that's why you can't immediately fall asleep, because your brain needs that time to understand that you found the shelter that you're going to be camped out for the night in. Other than bad sleep, people also have horrible diets nowadays. We were raised to eat foods that are polluting our bodies, but it's time for you to stop eating like a kid. Food should be seen as a means for fueling our bodies to function better, and our culture has drastically changed that over time. People now eat a lot of processed foods and sugary, carby foods. You should be eating whole foods with actual nutrients you need. And the issue is that sugar drives your blood sugar through the roof, and then when it crashes back down, you feel sluggish or you feel brain fog. And I know sugar is the most addictive thing there is. It's everywhere. And it's difficult because you've ate whatever you wanted all your life, but you have to do what's difficult sometimes. The last issue in society that's decreasing our ability to focus is pollution in the world. And that's not our fault, but it's everywhere and people should be aware of it. And individually, you can't escape this. So we as a group need to come together to raise awareness for this. We didn't evolve to combat all the contaminants being inhaled into our bodies on a regular basis. These contaminants affect our brains. Let's use lead, for example. It's pretty daunting when you look at kids who grew up in the cities with lots of lead in the air, as they have lesions, plaques, and tangles in their brain. Lead is in the air from the past century of leaded petrol, sending vast amounts into the air. Modern day humans carry 600 times more lead than pre-industrial humans. Workers in the lead industry literally went insane and died from being exposed to it. And the lead industry still promoted its use in the modern world for their profit. But after protesting it in the past couple decades, lead is used less and less, which shows we can do something about it with awareness. However, we'll have to take a similar approach with the modern chemicals, from pesticides, plasticizers, cosmetics, to flame retardants. With all these things, it comes down to your accountability. The government can't help you. They can't ban any of these things since we have the freedom, and the industries have their own reasons to keep the product going. But that's why it's up to you to make these changes in your life. I understand it's not fair that modern society has conditioned us to be so easily distracted and incapable, but I think it's an opportunity to lap the competition around me. So instead of scrolling through social media, read for a sustained period of time. Not only are you improving your attention, but you can gain knowledge as well. Reduce the stress in your life, since if you're stressed, it's hard to focus and get in the flow state, which is when you're focused for a long period of time and it seems like time just passes like a breeze because you're so locked in with what you're doing. And also take time to let your mind idle. When you're not doing anything, that doesn't mean you're not being productive. But if you're constantly consuming stuff on your phone, scrolling, that's when you're truly not being productive. When your mind is idling, you're able to digest what you're constantly consuming from the outside world. And you need time for your brain to digest this stuff. If you're constantly consuming more and more things, your ability to focus is impossible to access. And that's another major issue with society, is that you're being fed more and more, you're consuming more and more, constantly in this fast pace, when sometimes you really need to slow down. That's why I do things like meditation, stretching, even just going to the gym where I'm not on my phone. So I just wanted to bring up this whole crisis to your attention, since I think it's a really big deal. I think it's as big as the obesity crisis. I think it's as big as global warming, since without attention, without our ability to focus, we're not going to be able to combat these other crises. So I just wanted to put that out here, and then hope you guys enjoyed and start implementing this stuff in your real life. But the first step is awareness. So I'm glad that I brought some of that awareness to you today.